Daniel had been running not from a person, not from a crime, not even from the world itself. He was running from himself. Everything he had built, every plan, every connection, collapsed in a single week, leaving him hollow, broken, and desperate. Sleep had abandoned him. Food had lost its flavor. Silence, absolute silence, was all he craved. Somewhere untouched, somewhere the world couldn't reach him, the listing appeared online like a specter, almost mocking him. A small, isolated property, cheap, tucked at the edge of a forest. He told himself it was an accident, a random Google search that had stumbled on this forsaken place. But deep down, he knew it was fate or something darker guiding him. Hours blurred as he drove without direction, leaving the city lights, leaving people, leaving the hum of life behind. The forest grew thicker, its shadows stretching across the road like skeletal fingers. And then he saw it, a house that didn't just sit on the land it rose from it. Dark wood walls seemed to breathe. Tall, narrow windows reflected the fading light like hollow eyes. Even from the driveway, it radiated an almost tangible silence, one that made his engine hum feel like an insult. The porch creaked under his boots, a long, deliberate groan, like the house had been waiting for him to arrive. The door was massive, frame thick and worn, handle dulled with age. In his hand was a key, offered with a shrug by the agent. "I wouldn't stay here after dusk," the man had muttered, barely meeting his eyes. Something about the warning should have rooted itself in his gut, but he ignored it. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with dust, mildew, and a metallic tang he couldn't place. The living room was sparse, a sunken couch with springs that squeaked under his weight, a grandfather clock missing its hands, a tall mirror draped in white fabric like a shroud. No hum of appliances, no distant cars, not even birds outside. His footsteps echoed unnaturally, bouncing off walls that didn't feel entirely solid. A hallway led past a kitchen whose yellowed tiles and warped cabinets seemed almost older than time itself. Upstairs were 3 bedrooms, and touched, dust-heavy curtains hanging like silent sentinels. The walls were pale, peeling, as if the house itself was aging in anticipation of something. And then he saw it, a door he didn't remember noticing, small and marked, wedged between a bookshelf and a lamp. Its keyhole rusted, as if inviting him or daring him to open it. Something primitive stirred in him, fear, curiosity, reverence. The house shifted imperceptibly around him, a subtle awareness, as if watching him make a choice. That night, sleep came fitfully. The air pressed against him. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls. Floorboards groaned as if in complaint. And then, faint, unmistakable, a whisper. Daniel. No one knew his name. He bolted upright, heart racing. The room was empty. Morning arrived like a lie. Sunlight poured through grimy windows, illuminating dust motes that floated like suspended spirits. The door with the rusted keyhole waited, silent, patient. Something deep in the house had awakened last night, and it would not forget him. Over the next days, Daniel moved cautiously. Objects seemed slightly shifted when he wasn't looking. Nights brought dreams darker than sleep. A pale girl in the hallway, eyes hollow, whispering urgently. The room. You shouldn't open the room. One night, he awoke to find a rusted key on his nightstand. His pulse thundered in his ears as he approached the door. The key slid in effortlessly, cold, deliberate. A shiver ran down his spine as the door creaked open. Inside, the room was frozen in time. Dust hung in sunbeams, and touched furniture sat like statues, and family portraits stared with silent accusation. On a small table lay a diary, yellowed and brittle, labeled Evelyn. He is always watching. I must hide the truth before it's too late. Shadows pulled in corners, melting when he looked directly at them. Something ancient, patient, and hungry lingered. Daniel stepped in, curiosity stronger than fear, unaware that every move was part of a trap set centuries before. The following nights intensified. The house had a rhythm, creaks that followed his steps, subtle shifts of objects, doors slamming without reason, shadows pulled and writhed, almost corporeal, waiting. Whispers grew louder, layered names, cries, warnings, but he could never trace their source. Dreams returned. Evelyn appeared, more vivid, more insistent. Hollow eyes pierced him. Her voice whispered warnings broken in tone and meaning. Open it, or she would vanish before the threat completed. Each night, she drew closer, her presence pressing into the waking world. By the 5th night, curiosity overcame hesitation. Daniel read aloud from the diary. Evelyn had not been alone in fear. Others had come before him. Shadows had claimed them. Every soul trapped in the house's history resonated through walls and floors. Echoes stitched into the architecture. At the edge of vision, he glimpsed a tall, faceless figure, dark as void, waiting. The air turned icy. His pulse raced. He was drawn toward the house's core, toward the room, toward something unseen yet inevitable. Days were spent mapping, memorizing every corridor, staircase, hallway that seemed to shift subtly. Objects moved when unobserved. A chair relocated, A shoe by a doorway. Evelyn haunted his dreams, whispering hints, guiding him like a spectral mentor. Behind a hidden panel in the fireplace, he discovered the cellar. Narrow stone walls, carved warnings from prior occupants. Shadows swirled independently of light. Mirrors reflected him twice. A delayed reflection that seemed to watch him, trapped alongside him. The house was alive, consuming fear, storing it, shaping it. Shadows were not random, they were fragments of previous victims. Observing, learning, waiting. One night, Evelyn appeared fully in the mirror, face stretched, eyes glimmering, a smile that promised not salvation, but a task. She was guiding him, but toward what? Daniel explored aggressively. Doors resisted subtly, hallways twisted. Hidden newspapers and clippings revealed prior owners gone. Townsfolk too fearful to investigate. The faceless figure grew bolder. Reflections, corners, fleeting glimpses. Whispers became words. It wants you. You belong. Reality and dream blurred. He awoke in unfamiliar rooms. Windows faced unknown forests. Evelyn guided him toward the diary, the forgotten room, toward truths his mind couldn't yet grasp. Driving into the nearby town for supplies, Daniel encountered old men in the diner who stared at him with hollowed eyes. One whispered, almost too soft to hear, "Some houses are not meant to be lived in." The forest remembers. The girl, she waits, and the shadows follow. A clerk refused him a room at the local inn. "You'll not last a night," she said, shaking. Later, in a gas station, a man gave him a folded newspaper clipping. Family missing near woods. House abandoned. Police couldn't investigate. The world outside the house hinted at the danger inside. Every fragment, every warning, every shadow aligned toward one inevitable conclusion. By the seventh night, Daniel had pieced together the diary's scattered entries. Evelyn had not been trying to stop the house, she had been protecting something, nurturing it, keeping it bound. Every whisper, every shadow, every shifted object had been orchestrated to push him toward opening the final lock. The diary's last pages revealed a truth that twisted his stomach. Evelyn had transformed long ago, using her ghostly guise to manipulate victims. Fear was her sustenance, and he was the final key. Every soul trapped in the house's walls had been a step toward her full resurrection. Shadows began swirling violently that night. The faceless figure, once a distant observer, now stalked him opally, its presence pressed against him, its silence louder than screams. Hallways twisted, rooms shifted, doors became portals to unrecognizable spaces. Evelyn's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, guiding him toward the forgotten room, toward the diary, toward a destiny he could no longer escape. The transformation begins. Inside the forgotten room, the air vibrated with unnatural energy. Evelyn appeared fully, her form stretching, limbs elongating unnaturally, skin shimmering in cold, in human light. Her laughter was hollow, resonating in Daniel's bones. "You are perfect," she whispered. "The last piece. You opened the way." The walls of the house seemed to breathe. Shadows twisted, merging into shapes, faces of past victims, contorted and silent, circling him. Daniel's heartbeat thundered, pounding in the echoing room. The diary caught fire spontaneously in his hands, pages curling and blackening, leaving only ash. From its destruction, an energy exploded outward, shaking the foundations. Evelyn's true form emerged, tall, monstrous, vaguely human, her eyes glowing with a power beyond comprehension. Daniel stumbled backward, unable to flee. Every exit was swallowed by the house's shifting architecture. The shadows drew him in, circling, pressing, claiming. The tall, void-like figure that had haunted him became solid. It moved with silent purpose, circling Daniel, observing him. Its presence a physical force. It was not attacking, but it didn't need to. Its mere existence warped reality, bending the house's corridors and walls around the transformation taking place. Evelyn's voice sang in his mind, melodic yet terrifying. "Do not resist. You complete the cycle." Daniel realized with a sudden, horrifying clarity that he had not survived this night, he had fulfilled it. He was the final catalyst, the piece needed for Evelyn to transcend the house. For a brief moment, a window cracked open. Moonlight spilled across the floor, illuminating the house's warped interior. Daniel thought he could escape, and with desperation, he lunged toward it. But the shadows reached outward, beyond the house, tangling with the forest outside. Trees bent unnaturally, branches reached toward him as if alive. In the distance, lights of the nearby town flickered faint, but visible. A lone vehicle drove past the edge of the forest, oblivious. The town, the people, the world beyond the house, they were now connected to the house's hunger, ready to feel its reach. Evelyn's presence surged. Her form stretched toward the window, and with a movement faster than thought, she disappeared into the night, leaving the house empty but alive. Daniel collapsed onto the floor, the shadows coiling around him like living chains. Morning light crept through windows, or what he thought was morning. The air felt wrong, too still, too heavy. Relief washed over him at first, But when he glanced down, a glowing sigil had appeared over his chest. His heart throbbed unnaturally beneath it, each beat echoing a connection to something vast and hungry. Evelyn's voice whispered from nowhere and everywhere. "Thank you for releasing me. The world is ours now." Daniel staggered outside. The house appeared calm, quiet, almost innocent, but the forest beyond swayed unnaturally, as if breathing. Shadows stretched from the house into the trees, reaching outward, creeping toward the town and beyond. He tried to run. His legs felt heavy, as if tied by invisible cords, and then he understood he had not survived. He had completed the resurrection. The house had waited centuries for the right person, and he had fulfilled its purpose. The camera or Daniel's mind's eye pulled back. Overgrown grass swayed, windows dark, door slightly ajar. Waiting, watching, shadows stretched, melting into the forest, into the town, into the unsuspecting world. Every familiar place felt subtly wrong. A stranger's figure lingered too long in the street. Shadows moved where none should. People felt a chill they couldn't explain. The predator was no longer confined. It had reached beyond the house, and it would not stop. Daniel's figure froze in realization. Somewhere deep inside, a part of him screamed. Evelyn, no longer human, stretched her tendrils of shadow outward, her influence infecting reality itself. The town, the forest, the world, they were extensions of her hunger now. Some houses are not haunted, they are hungry. Some ghosts are not victims, they are predators. And some stories are only the beginning of something far worse. The wind whispered across the forest. Shadows twisted, alive and patient. The house waited, watching, always waiting.